Hey, my name's Jonathan Clark. In this video, this one's going to be a pretty short one compared to a lot of my more in-depth tutorials. This one I just want to cover three quick things that I might do when I'm doing some editing of microphone work, of audio stuff that I've recorded. So I'm going to touch on simple noise reduction, and then a quick EQing of my voice, and then a quick application of reverb. Of these three things, I'm going to focus a little bit more on the noise reduction, although this will not be an in-depth examination of noise reduction by any means. Now, the reason I've done this is because I've got a couple different microphone review videos that at one point in the video I kind of do these things to a sample of what I've recorded, just to give a better idea of what the sound of the microphone's like. So I've got one with a couple of the Spark mics, the Spark and the Spark Digital from Blue Microphones. I've got one of a lav mic from Audio Technica, and I've got another one of a shotgun mic from Rode. Anyway, so this video, quick explanation of what I'm doing in those three videos, and possibly a few others. And like I say, I do have a more complicated video that kind of touches on the same stuff, where I'm talking about enhancing voiceovers for like podcasts, stuff like that. And in the more complicated one you might want to watch, I go into a lot more depth about compression of my voice at the start. I'm not going to touch on compression here. I think I talk about gating a little bit, although instead of properly gating, I believe I was doing manual editing to attenuate the certain parts of a voiceover, to drop down the level where I take a deep breath between phrases. And in that video I think I did talk about EQing, and I talked about reverb in a fair amount of depth. I don't know if I talked about adding a delay which is sort of an echo effect, to a vocal. The delay, not something I would probably ever do in a podcast, although if you're working on actual vocals for a song, using a delay or doubling, things like that, are pretty common. Okay, so let's do an example. And for copyright reasons, I'm just going to use a sample again of a song that I wrote. It's called When I Grow Old. If you want a copy of it, there's a free download on SoundCloud. One of my friends, Mike Allison, did the vocals for me in that song, so I'll put the link under the video. But what I have here is a generic mic, and it's a CAD. It's the GXL 2200, and the reason I picked this is because it's a condenser mic. It's going to pick up a lot of room noise, and I want some room noise to be able to demonstrate noise reduction a little bit better. I don't have a review video of this particular microphone, but that's okay. And so with noise reduction or hiss reduction, basically when you make a recording of some sort of audio thing, quite often there might be some background noise that can be annoying. And there's a whole lot of different reasons why you could have some background noise introduced into your audio. There could be an air conditioner in the background. There could be electrical hum. There could be noise from fluorescent lights. There could be a computer fan running. If you're working with audio cassettes, old audio cassettes you're bringing into a session, there could be tape hiss. If you're bringing vinyl records into a session, there could be the vinyl noise. There could be, what else? Some mic preamps have a little bit of noise. If you're recording outside, you could have rumble from the wind. You could have a washer and dryer running in the far background, giving a very slight rumble. So all of these things basically, and I guess you could have crowd noise too, would be another example. Now, most of these things that I've talked about are a pretty constant level and constant frequency in the background. Not the crowd noise. Crowd noise is up and down. That's kind of a separate issue. It's a little bit harder to get rid of that. But if you've got something where it's a very consistent background noise, it's actually not too hard to get rid of it partially. You're never going to get rid of everything, If you do try to get rid of everything, then it's probably going to have a negative impact on the quality of the rest of your audio. So you have to kind of find a nice balance in between getting rid of none and still having all of your quality, all your data and information in your speaking, your vocal part, or getting rid of all of the background noise and degrading your data. So you want to find the sweet spot, I guess, in the middle. Okay, so to make sure that I've got some hum in the background here, I've put my power supply from the computer. If you're recording in a laptop, sometimes the power supply introduces a lot of noise. And so if you're having a problem with that, obviously the first choice is anytime you're about to record a vocal, pull the plug out and go off battery power for a short time. Anyway, to make sure I've got some noise in this test recording, I've got the power supply sitting on my XLR cord, which is always a terrible idea. Don't have your signal cords and electrical sources or electrical cords touching each other, laying across each other, whatever. I have some fluorescent lights on in the room. I have the fan running on my computer, on my laptop. So hopefully this will give me a good solid amount of background noise. So as we record here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off with about 5 seconds of silence. That's important at the start. And that will let us see visually on the screen. It'll give us a section to do a good capture of a noise print, which we'll explain in a minute. And yeah, and then I'll just do a quick speak over here. So let's get going. So this is goodbye. You knew that it was coming. It's not like I'm running without warning you at all. Stop. Okay, perfect. So you'll also notice that when I did that, I was pretty far away from the mic. I was a foot away from the mic. Obviously, when you're recording vocals, closer is better. And the reason for that is when that microphone, no matter where it is right here, it's going to pick up roughly the same amount of background noise anywhere. But there could be a difference of maybe 10 decibels easily between holding, if the mic is this far from my mouth, perhaps my vocals are peaking at minus 18 decibels. Come up here, perhaps my vocals are peaking at minus 8 decibels, so it's 10 decibels louder. Now, if my vocals are 10 decibels louder and the background noise is the same level, then that's good because that gives me a bigger separation between the good vocals and the background noise. So closer is better. And of course, I should be using a pop filter, but for purposes of this video, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to delete that little section at the start. I'm using Audition as an editing program, DAW, and Audition is it's a product by Adobe. Okay, so you can see at the beginning here, we have all this stuff where in a perfect environment, this would be a perfectly flat line because there would be no noise. And if I play it, see right down around here, my background noise is peaking, you know, it's fluttering between, say, negative 45 and negative 42. So that's quite a bit of background noise floor. Okay, and then when I get to the vocals, I can see visually right here, negative 12 is the peak of my vocals. If I go to play it, let's see if the meter hits right about here. Yep, almost exactly. Okay, so we want to, let's take the headphones out of the laptop, and you're going to be able to hear this a little bit on the camera's audio feed, but I can also superimpose these audio files when I edit this for YouTube. So this is goodbye. You knew that it was coming. It's not like I'm running without warning you at all. Okay, that should be workable. So we want to get rid of some of this background noise. So first thing to do, you're going to select this, and almost every DAW has some sort of method for doing some noise reduction. Doesn't matter if you're using Audition, if you're using Sourceforge, you can use some free software like Audacity has some, and considering it's free, Audacity is not too bad. But you can also get into more expensive stuff. If you want to go with kind of one of the cream of the crop, kind of, for this sort of work, for noise reduction work and tidying stuff up, is it's a plugin called RX by Isotope. The only problem with Isotope RX is that it's about $1,200 to buy. So let's stick with the free stuff. Audition is not free, but I have it. Audacity, yes, is free, so you could work with that if you wanted. Okay, so with Audition, I've got this area, and so the first thing I want to do is select a section where there is no useful part of my vocals. Then I'm going to go into Effects, and I'm going to go into Noise Reduction, and Capture Noise Print is important. And the reason for that is because I want the computer to understand what the unwanted part of my audio is. Now, I can either click on it now, or I can also, see, it's already captured it by doing that. I can also go into my noise reduction process, which is something I'm going to get into next anyway. And if I wanted to, because I have this section highlighted, I can capture the noise print from within here. So just click, and it's done. Okay, so now at this point, we've got a lot of choices. And sometimes you might have this, just say advanced here. Drop this down so you can see what's going on. There's some fancy controls here: spectral decay rate, precision factor, smoothing, and transition width. If you really want to understand what those do, they do make a difference. They don't make a huge difference for the kind of quick and dirty work that I'm doing right here, so I'm not going to talk about those. But if you go to Adobe's online sites, they have some pretty good explanations and tutorials about what this sort of stuff means. And the FFT size, the fast Fourier transform size, and stuff like that is useful. Okay, so for now, what we're going to do is look, and we've got two settings, two sliders, and the first one is the noise reduction percentage reduction. So right now it's 0, it's not going to get rid of anything. If I were to move this all the way over to 100, that should get rid of it all. The only problem is, like I mentioned earlier, getting rid of all the noise probably reduces the quality of my actual useful vocals. Okay? Down here, reduce by, right now it's set at 50. Okay, we can set this at just about anything. And this is the amount by which the noise is reduced. Not everything in the file, hopefully just the noise. But the problem is, when you reduce noise, sometimes you lose some of your vocals. Okay, now before we reduce any of this, we're going to double click and highlight the whole thing, because I don't want to reduce the noise just in that section of useless area that I captured the noise print from. Okay, I want to actually reduce the noise where my vocals are. So we can also, before we reduce it, let's do a test section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this, I'm going to put it on loop repeat, and we're going to press play, and so this is goodbye, so this is goodbye, okay, and so then this is goodbye. What I can do, so this is goodbye, with headphones, so this is goodbye, is I can listen to this and get a better sense of exactly what's happening to both the noise area and the vocal area. So this is goodbye. So let's try reducing the noise entirely. So this is goodbye. So this is goodbye. Okay, nothing's happened yet. That's because we're really only reducing the noise by 1 decibel. So let's try and reduce it by a bigger amount. So this is goodbye. So this is goodbye.
So this is goodbye.
Okay,
So this...
I wonder if that's going to make a difference. Well, it's hard to, in a preview of this, it's kind of hard with the microphone of the camera to try and pick this up. But what I'm going to do is say for now that a setting of around 60 to 70% for me works pretty good. And reducing the noise by anywhere from 3 to 10 decibels usually makes a big difference. I'm going to set it at 6 right now. I'm going to put the headphones on just for a second to test this, because I'm going to actually give you these files to download if you want to. And I'm going to turn the fan off the computer so it's not so noisy for you now. So if I went down to 20%, it was a little bit of a reverb, kind of a warbly sound in the background. So I think right now,
goodbye.
My settings.
So this is goodbye.
Of 10 decibel reduction, 70% is what's going to work for me. And if I take the effect off, bypass the effect.
So this is goodbye.
I can hear the noise.
So this is goodbye.
I can also click this.
So this is goodbye. So this is goodbye.
And when I have that clicked, normally it outputs only the noise that's being reduced. Anyway, let's highlight the whole thing and apply, and take a very close look as I apply to what happens to all this stuff here. It should become a flatter line with no background noise. And also let's look carefully where this kind of just barely crosses the -12 line. Let's see if that's reduced. And down at the bottom here, it does exactly touch the -12 line. Oh, that's not good. Okay, so when we just did that, it reduced everything. So what went wrong? Let's go back in here. And once again, let's, oh, because we had output noise clicked. Okay, so let's do another capture of the noise print. Good. And we have 70%, 10 decibel reduction. And because it's been captured, now let's highlight the whole thing and let's apply. There we go. Okay, so you can see now that the line is a lot flatter. And down here, our -12, our peak doesn't quite touch that anymore. So we have lost a little bit of volume in our signal, and the -12 up here, it crossed over a little bit higher before. So we've lost a little bit of volume on our vocals, but not a ton.
So this is goodbye. You knew that it was...
Okay, and the other good thing is as we play this, see where our noise is down around -54 now, instead of back where it was up around -45 to -42.
So this is goodbye. You knew that it was coming.
Okay, and what I can do next is I can highlight the whole thing, and I can go into my filter and EQ, and I have a setting here of vocal enhancer, and basically what it does is it cuts. It's a low cut filter for the very heavy, very bassy stuff, and then a little bit of low end from say about 80 hertz to about 200 hertz, gets a tiny bit of a bump, and then around 300 to 500 there's a bit of a cut, and then above 3K it rises up, although I don't want it rising this much. I want it to just pop up a bit. And we can see what it sounds like.
You knew that it was coming. It's not like I'm running without warning you at all.
Okay, so that'll make a slight EQing difference to my file. That's what I'm doing there. And then next, the final thing I want to do is add a small amount of Studio Reverb. And I'm not going to explain this all in this video. My other vocals voiceover enhancement one I think goes into reverb a lot more. So I've got it set at 93% dry, 7% wet. So it's just a tiny bit of reverb being applied. Okay, so let's see what it sounds like now.
So this is goodbye. You knew that it was coming. It's not like I'm running without warning you at all.
Okay, so that's not a it's not a whole lot of work to do that, but if you were to listen to the original and then compare it to this one, you're going to find a big difference. So I'll put a link to the other more complicated enhancement video down in the YouTube description. Also, at some point I will do a very detailed full video about noise reduction alone. Talk about the difference between noise reduction and hiss reduction. The short version, noise reduction, kind of like think of crowd noise and stuff like that. Stuff where there's a little bit more variation in levels and frequency, I think would be a good way of talking about noise reduction. And for hiss reduction, that's more when you've got the more like tape hiss and stuff like that. Very specific frequencies, very constant stuff. Okay, so that's about it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this raw material, this audio file, I'll put it up on my server. So if you want to download it, I'll put the download link inside the video link under YouTube's description, whatever. And so you can download it and listen to it in good headphones and get a better sense of what happened as I did each step. And I'll save it as 4 copies. So the first one I'll call raw, and that's when I first recorded it. The second one I will call noise reduction. So that'll be after the noise reduction was applied. Third I'll call EQ, and that's with the eq'ing applied. And the fourth will be called final. So that's noise reduction, EQ, and reverb. And of course, we probably want to bring the volume up. Now, when you listen to this, you are going to notice that this does not sound perfect. It's got a little bit of an echoey sound to it, a little reverby, washy, sort of warbly sound to it. And that's because a computer's not perfect. We weren't working with a great file from the start. So your best bet to have high quality results in the end is to don't rely on the computer to do everything. Get the best possible source material possible. Sometimes there's no choice, but in this case, you know, I could have taken that power supply off my XLR cord. Could have made sure the fluorescent lights are out, make sure I'm in the quietest environment possible, make sure the computer fan is off, make sure I'm as far away from the laptop as possible if the fan, if you don't have a way of turning the fan off and on, and finally making sure that I'm using a pop filter and I'm as close to the microphone as possible instead of giving it too much space. So the more that you can do like that to give yourself better starting material, the better it's going to sound in the end. The computer can help, but the computer's not a magic band-aid. Okay? So hopefully that gives you a little bit of info about what you can do. It's not terribly hard. A little bit of practice and you can certainly make an improvement to the files that you're working with. So if you want to learn more, I've got other tutorials and stuff. You can find them on my website. If you go to djbolivia.ca/videos, I'll put the link up here on the screen. It's a full list of every tutorial I have on YouTube, kind of organized in categories, so that might be helpful. Okay, so thank you very much for watching, and good luck with your audio editing.